right. So both Richard and I, we're going to open with a little bit of a conversation around how we have been helping companies with their AI transformation at the enterprise level, and how um, we've also helped individuals because we support a lot of staffing roles. And one thing I'm seeing out there is I saw a recent statistic that 8 out of 10 hiring managers and recruiters are looking for AI in the resumes as a requirement for them to be moving forward. 8 out of 10 is very high, but it makes a lot of sense because a lot of the projects that I'm coming across are all have AI influenced, or if not full transformation efforts. So the projects are coming this way, and so the staffing obviously has to follow right behind it. So you can imagine where the needs are for people that have these skills. Now, I also saw this statistic that America is in the lower quadrants of implementation, and I've seen it, even with Sam Altman and those, they talk about 1% implementation, where leadership is excited about where things are going and think that the ROI is there. 1%, but yet we're getting 8 out of 10 recruiters and hiring managers expecting AI in resumes. So and even thinking about a separate section in the resumes since we're early days. So the first thing I wanted to do is have a quick icebreaker. If you want to answer in the chat, go ahead and feel free. So think of the biggest shift and how then and now, when you first came across AI. Maybe it was when you were first experiencing ChatGPT. Maybe you went back 5 or 6 years with machine learning. So think about that, and then how it is now and the speed of things. Okay. And then also think about where AI has delivered value in the place you didn't expect. What surprised you about where it actually worked versus where you thought it would work? And this is obviously a very fast moving. Within 6 months, there's another major change in things, whether it's the models, the capabilities of the models, those kind of things. So that's one thing. As we're going through the presentation today, I want to think about your organization. If you're leaders in the organization, how are you bringing in AI into your organization to be maybe an AI first organization? And if you're an individual, how are you preparing yourself to future-proof your career path? So that should you be in a role looking for a promotion, is AI going to be something that you're expected to know? Or if you're out in the market, and have some time, are you getting certified? There are certifications in this area. And we'll be talking about Mind Studio. I know Mind Studio has 3 levels of certification. I was certified almost a year ago in Mind Studio, and I think it's a great platform. And so, and all the other ones, the training organizations are bringing courseware in and certifications. So until then, think about how you're preparing. So, all right. So I'm going to move to the next slide. Richard, you got anything to say real quick?
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments. Thank you all for joining, by the way. This is great. We love talking about this. I think a lot of people are, saying they're drinking from a fire hose. This is changing. Not every 6 months, it's every week, it seems. So it is challenging to keep up with it. Even the top brass, Andrew Karpathy, he talked about how he's not coded since December, and he's kind of shifted his value towards an observer as opposed to a developer. And I think a lot of people are asking those questions of where do they get started and so forth, and what sources do they go to find out what the latest things are. So I find that X has a lot of good community for X.com for the AI teams, and also Reddit, and also YouTube has a lot of great resources. So having a good curated list is good to stay up on top of everything.
Yeah, and I saw another great comment there about a portfolio. If you don't have a certification opportunity, start building a portfolio in your Git repository. Share that as a means of showing what you can do in this space. I know that's something where I collect a lot of my work. All right, well, let me get into some of the slides here. So as you think about AI transformation, this isn't the first time we've had to make a lot of change in an organization. If you go back, I remember early in my career when computers weren't on everybody's desktop. So the ability to type was not in a lot of senior folks, senior leadership's capabilities. Can you imagine that? And so, and then when the internet moved in, that was department wide. But then when we moved to the cloud, that was more of an IT initiative. Millions and millions of dollars still in effort, but sometimes it affects the whole company, and sometimes it affects just an IT group. Well, in this AI era that we're in, it is affecting everybody. Agents and can be built by people within departments, HR, recruiting, sales, not just IT. So think about your environment and as we go through this, and what processes you do that are often very repeatable and fairly standard, and where AI could maybe be slid into that process. So, but when we're talking to an enterprise organization, it's really about bringing in change at the from the top level. And of course, phase zero, we're always looking at strategy and alignment against business values. So what we want to do is we want to start with a strategy, look at where we can have the greatest value of AI being applied. And then you want to have executive sponsorship behind it, not just tools. Tools come a little later. First, you just need to see, where it is that you're going to be able to take advantage of AI at a high level, and then start to work into very specific processes. We're going to have some slides later that dig a little deeper into each of those steps on how you'd implement that. But again, it is a multi-phased approach. Learn a lot in the beginning, prioritize so you can do some lower risk, high value pilots and learn. And as you learn more along the process and can get some good wins and get some stabilization, you can scale and evolve in phase 4. Richard, any thoughts on how we've been working with enterprises in their transformation?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is not really start with AI, but start with where you are today. Start with your process. Look at where the data starts, look at where you manage it, and look at where it rests. And that whole flow is where we can, put the agentic process in to help you with that. So it could be taking out a whiteboard and just, saying this is where we start, this is where we go next, and here's some of our bottlenecks. It's a great place to start, is to understand exactly where you are in the process, and not necessarily what an SOP might say, but actually what you're actually doing in the real world.
Yeah, and I think key to that is really looking at what are the measurable outcomes, which means metrics. And so as an example, I have some here with, if you're looking at more cost and efficiency outcomes, maybe it's cycle times or hours saved. I know when we were implementing RPA years ago, that's what it was all about. We had the bots running instead of humans, very structured data in the use of RPA, but that's been around 15 years. So this isn't the first time we've automated processes. But what really AI has done for us is that we were able to automate a lot of the unstructured stuff, which RPA was not good at. And so others might be revenue growth. Maybe we're in a sales cycle and converting prospects and getting the pipeline moving faster, or upselling. So these are various things that we can look at. And again, the beauty of AI is, guess what? You can use AI to identify measures and KPIs. If you can't think of any in your group, AI provides a wonderful opportunity for that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So also what we want to do is we want to organizing for agentic features. So how do we align around our agents, right? Again, agents have fit within a value stream. Stream example here, which is a sales process. Oftentimes, a lot of folks know, you're identifying leads and you're qualifying leads. And then once the lead has, you have a project that you can align with, then maybe you build some proposals, go back and forth and iterate on those until you finally get alignment and you can close them. And so here's an example of where you have a first agent that really helps around lead identification and qualification. Maybe there's surveys that go out that you can ask questions. that help qualify the lead a little more as you're getting into the discovery of actual projects. And then, of course, proposals. I use this all the time. Proposals that used to take me a week to handwrite, I can do in hours now based on transcripts and other feedback that we got from the client. Those proposals, I can build them very quickly, and they're very accurate based on information that actually was talked about that I may not have even had been able to take notes. So I'm using transcripts and other kinds of things to help push proposal development in a very efficient way. So this is, and you're going to come across this in every department. You'll have value streams that need to be processed, flowed, and if you don't have your processes documented, guess what? AI can help with that too, where you can almost speak to an AI agent and it will help build the process alongside of you, and you can validate it. Richard, any thoughts here in this area?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at it like when you bring in an employee, you have a manager, you have a job description, you have guardrails on what your position is and what you're doing. I think you look at agents the same way. You're going to be, a lot of people are going to be shifting their value from actually doing the work to observing the work and becoming, the experts that they are, right? So I think a lot of experienced people, it's not replacing them, it's actually them shifting their value to reviewing what AI is producing to be the validator, the human in the loop.
Excellent, excellent. So also what I'd like to do, I know we're running a little bit on close to time here. There's various areas that, that are AI ready for the enterprise. A lot of it, you're going to be looking at a maturity growth curve on how quickly you are taking on these technologies, building them into the enterprise, stabilizing on them. And so, whether it building an innovation center at the top to build strategies and standards, to building a learning hub where you then sharing agents. A lot of these tools, you can share agents across departments and across the organization that can be modified and reapplied. And then, of course, you're modernizing all your technology. And then, of course, training and readiness is critical to this whole process. Any change management and transformation really leads with a good training program. And then as we're rolling this out, there's going to be different waves. This lighthouse domain concept might be new to folks, but think of a lighthouse and what a lighthouse provides. People that are, seafaring and they basically can direct their boat towards the lighthouse, or if there's rocky, water. So that's where this lighthouse metaphor comes in. But you want to grab 2 to 3 really high value product domains that you're going to approach, and maybe even the lower risk. So maybe not heavily regulatory, and get these fast wins so you can show these high impact use cases within a couple of value streams. And each one of those is going to have an intake and process, discovery, design, build and pilot, as well as you're going to evaluate and scale. So, and as you move from those early pilot areas, then you're going to go into other areas that are adjacent and have familiarity with what you did in the earlier ones. And as these grow and mature, you can move more into the more complex regulated ones. Any thoughts, Richard, in this area?
Crawl, walk, run. Start with the easy wins, like you said. Everybody can visually see, they can experience it, and then but definitely don't start with the most regulated and hardest and most political department. Start with some easy wins, and you can go from there.
All right, and this last concept area is what I wanted to share. So a lot of times what we're seeing is that early on, years ago, like two years ago, when this was first being presented for adoption, the Center of Excellence concept was being leveraged. And we've seen this before with quality assurance and agile and other areas where we built a Center of Excellence. Something else that might not be quite as well known out there is the concept of a virtual AI delivery center. A lot of companies are looking to the IT group to really push this, since they feel AI is a technical challenge, and so IT should be driving this. But as you'll see, especially during our demonstration, anybody can build agents. Anybody can build code-driven development. I mean, AI-driven code development to build things for their departments. It is a whole new paradigm, and so depending upon where your organization is looking for guidance and implementation, it may come from an IT group. It might come from the top down. And so this concept of virtual AI delivery centers versus COEs, you may come across both. And so they have some similarities, but they also have differences as well. And some of those would be the IT side is really about implementation, boots on the grounds, getting things done. And then, of course, the Center of Excellence is more around strategy and building governance and standards and centralizing leadership. So, and the one thing you want to be careful, and why we call it a virtual AI delivery center, is that if you build a physical committed AI delivery center, it could very easily become a bottleneck. And that's the last thing right there. Avoid bottlenecks and spread AI practices across all of IT and all of the Scrum teams instead of isolating them. So early on, you may build a virtual team that is a grouping, a sampling of the SMEs from different Scrum teams into that virtual team. And then they, of course, cross-pollinate back into their organizations as they learn and implement. Anything you'd like to provide here?
Yeah, I think if you try to replace yourself, you're going to understand exactly what it takes for the agentic process to happen. But you're going to be the expert to review what artificial intelligence is producing. So you're going to be in that part of the loop. So start with your lowest hanging fruit, your processes that you have now. Look at where they're starting and look at where they end, and look at how we can automate these processes for you.